Hey there, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jamie, and we're your co-hosts for Two Clicks in a Pod.
Join us as we explore our missed times, stories, and memories due to divorce and 1,000-mile separation.
I can't wait. You ready to get into it, Kev?
I am. Hey, Jamie, you think they're going to swear?
Oh, yeah. Consider yourselves warned.
Hello, everybody. Another big episode coming to Two Clicks. Hope everyone's doing well. We are in celebration mode. As of last week, we have been on the air for a full year. This marks episode 33. I know Jamie's episode launched yesterday. She explained what we're doing with individual contributions this month, having 3 pods laying down in the month of July. So after the 4th of July, that marked 1 year of Two Clicks in a Pod being on the records. And as I sit here, I've really reminded myself, as I have through this entire 12-month journey, how much reflection of what we've discussed, what we've covered, life in general, from beginning to current day, has really taught the both of us. So this afternoon, I really want to just share a few thoughts from this past year on not only the discovery, but what it uncovered for me. I went back and listened once again to Dr. Allison Drew's podcast number 23, because we really had someone for the first time as a guest that has much similar family dynamics as most of us do. And her transparency, as well as ours, I think brought forward a lot of kind of not earth-shattering, but just some truth that kind of made sense to me. One of the most meaningful lessons that I learned in that session, which is titled Spiritual Awakenings, was that she challenged us to truly see ourselves not just as what we think we are, but as others see us. And that can be both good and bad. You know, she simply said, see yourself the way others see you, the good and the bad. And that kind of hit me straight into the forehead or between the eyes, and it reminded me of my youth. And I've been reflecting on that a lot, as we've talked about. Number one, with the class reunion after 52 years of high school. But in doing that as well, I've been working on a life story of short stories in a book. And I walk through life from 1955 as a birth through current day, as just turned 70, and I'm wearing my celebration 70 birthday hat on the Two Clicks birthday. So, but it just has made me think a lot about, confidence, insecurities, truth versus lies, hopes versus and dreams versus reality. But in all of that, at 12 years old, as a 7th grader in Williamsburg, Virginia, and in that move into a brand new school in which I stayed through 12th grade, kind of my formative years and good memory years. But I remember at the end of that year being issued a yearbook, and everybody knows what a high school or a yearbook is. And little did I know anything about the custom of passing a book around your classmates to get them to author some funny notes or memories of the year and transcribe a greeting to you and just kind of share things as they would with pen and paper in the front, back, and throughout the yearbook as to what they thought of you. I was really, really fearful of that. And because I was a newcomer, because I was young, because I was shy, because I wore glasses, and because I really just didn't feel like I fit in. And so I had a group of buddies, which I tell that story in detail on the Two Clicks episode. But these guys were very important to me, and me trying to blend in at a young age of 12, trying to figure out that whole dynamic of asking someone that I just thought was way too cool, too cool for school. And I wasn't. And so my yearbook, which I've gone back and looked at the yearbooks that Mom has remarkably kept her in her home, and happened to find those just in doing research for going back to the reunion and who the classmates were, what they thought of me. And I don't know, I'm sure you all have done the same thing of just, how much of a big shot you were or how little of a shot you might have been. But it was very interesting to read, the 7th grade yearbook, the 8th grade yearbook, the 9th grade through 12th grade yearbooks. And my signatures were a minimum at an early age. I was too shy and too scared to ask those who I thought were just way beyond my reach to sign my yearbook. And that is a fear that I describe, I think, pretty well in most instances of that stayed with me throughout my high school year of just, we all struggle with confidence. We all struggle with self-awareness, and to know better yet, it goes back to the point, see yourself the way others see you. And I wasn't doing that. I was seeing myself the way I saw myself. So that's why it hit me so hard, is because most people think you're a good guy. Most people actually, had I asked, would have responded and put that in my yearbook. But it was a big takeaway in that actual lesson with Dr. Allison. And she's got enough education to probably put most of us beyond our comprehension of hours spent in a higher institution. But she did remind me that you always see yourself in a completely different light than from what others' point of view might be. And we trap ourselves in that perception. Thus, her mentioning of this rang that bell of truth and a moment of fear from my past. I judge myself well ahead of others who judge me. I judge myself, I'm very hard on myself, even to this day, self-proclaimed perfectionist. But judging myself isn't the way other people see me. So therefore, it just resonated. She encouraged us to really try to dig in and work through memories, and spend some time reflecting on that. And reflection, as I'm sure you've seen in this podcast, has been what 33 episodes has been totally about, trying to bring the truth of our story and find ourselves, and better yet, as Dr. Allison said, grow from that experience. Memories are good to go back and see. What did you take from them? What did you learn from them? What was fearful to where you didn't do what you would do today? And that was my biggest, probably, development moment in these 30 some odd episodes, to realize that I am who I am, but I still have to be who others see that I am. And that's more important than what I think I am. What others think of you is tenfold more gracious than what you probably think of yourself. So let go of yourself and let's just kind of concentrate on what people do see. And that is normally the good and what you really strive to be. So with that, and again, over 12 months, as you've heard on the podcast, Jamie and I, and a lot has been talked about our health kicks and getting into healthy mode and proper eating and dieting and dropping some pounds. And again, in this past year and during this time, I've had a coach working with me, to make sure that I'm being successful at that. And my coach brought forward early on a acronym, which I didn't really understand what it meant, but it was a PAR. And I know a par is a par. It's a score on a golf card, whether you par the hole, bogey the hole, birdie the hole, eagle the hole. But PAR stands for, and an acronym for, plan, act, and reflection. And when Dylan, my coach, mentioned that, I think the word reflection or reflect was one I'd never even thought about. So the biggest thing from the PAR approach was the R, plan. Well, I feel like I'm a pretty good planner. I've always planned things. I'm a pilot. I've gone on bike trips. Anything I go is a journey, and therefore I do pretty well at planning. The other thing that I feel I am good with is action, to act. Sometimes faster than I should. Better yet, action is what keeps me motivated. I am action-packed. I like things. I like extreme things. I like doing things. I like doing hard things, difficult things. If it's easy, I'm not in. That's why probably I do not like playing board games. It seems like it's easy. But I've been that way for some time. It keeps me motivated. Being action packed has kept me young. It's kept me inspired. It keeps me energized. Suzanne, my fiance, she just wonders if I'm ever going to stop. Can we just relax for a moment of the day? But being that action packed and that energized, it also does cause what she hopes for is fatigue at 9 p.m. That's when the garage doors close in front of me, followed by my eyes. And that is a good thing. I am the type of guy that's up early and kind of crashing early. But again, what we need to make sure of in all of this is what we've learned and what we are actually trying to create a better person in being throughout our existence and in these memories that we've laid out in these actual pods, as Jamie likes to call them. So it has been a discovery of trying to know myself, ourselves, and I hope you guys have enjoyed that both on the inside and out. It's not true that we obviously know our inside. What we don't know is what the truth is on the outside. And that's the conclusion. Be who I am, and as well, be who you are. And the you are is better than who I really think I am. And I just said, wow. So that was the big takeaway. The other takeaways that came from that is a lot of what I heard my daughter speak to me yesterday morning in her address is I do feel I have in an elder age and of more recent 15 years really learned how to be quiet, practice patience, listen, and more recently, a lot of reflection. And that reflection has been going on for a couple of years now. The time it took to get everybody together, the time it's taken to, draw stories from age 0 to age 69 and recording and documenting those. And the other thing with regards to listening and patience and reflection is to respond, but don't just react. And you've heard about the good and the bad and the firestorms that adults and children have as growing up, and those have been shared and very transparent in our discussions. But it's always a reaction. It's an overreaction. Better yet, it's an emotional reaction. If it was an intellectual reaction, the point could be made and there wouldn't be any argument or emotional hurt. Other things that I really takeaways from the podcast are really some of my favorite moments, which I've learned with the help of purchasing a clicker counter. How many better yets I've said, how many oh my's I've said, how many you knows I've said, hmms, or even better yet, let's move on. And I still have to take count of those because I've got a big with a red circle and a cross through it, but it hasn't stopped me yet from, as a filler, stating and I've been called out for it, and I'm sure everyone is tired of it. But better yet, let's move on. It's a part, as far as I'm concerned, filling the air is a part of conversation that needs to be broken, and storytelling that is a part of telling a story. But again, it just distracts, and I am working hard to try to make that be a much better delivery without a or a better yet. Another takeaway is just what a lucky man I am to have this opportunity in life to actually take the time and make the effort and to relate life stories that my daughter and I have had and that we've had as a part of our lives with one another and away from another, and just the continued memories that we make that we share on this story from going to Atlantic City here a couple of weeks ago. We love bringing that kind of feedback, that kind of banter, and better yet, catch up, along with hopefully some sort of a message to be delivered. And in this podcast, I've got a great partner, a beautiful, young, loving daughter who has thought and brought and put a lot of initiative into this podcast and really allowed me a new life into our relationship through the pod. We've gone through times apart. We've gone through times together. And in the last probably 6 years, this relationship is stronger than it's ever been. And again, makes me feel fatherly and a good dad and a good grandfather, and just the willingness to be transparent, open, and honest about some hard times and hard stories. Another takeaway is both family, friends, and supporters of the podcast have come up, congratulated, said hello, and endured the reruns of our life stories, and by some accounts have also enjoyed, laughed, and learned more about themselves and the two of us than they really care to. So it's been good, bad, and ugly. That's just the motto of where we've been and where we have tried to break free and find something more on the healthy, and I think we've accomplished that. What I have rediscovered in myself, and there's been a lot of discovery and rediscovery, but this year has helped me reconnect with a lot of things that I thought I had lost and strengthen what I already had, the core of who I was. The biggest one in that, is I have to say, is my faith. You know, I grew up Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I was in church every day at a young age, every Sunday, a part of the whole Catholic institution, believed in it strongly, continue to still have faith in that faith. It's wavered at times, going away to school and college, but it's always come back to where I can say that it's a core value that I still rely strongly on, and that I've learned to welcome back into my life, and just really wondered why I wandered, and only to be thankful that I've returned, to have a strong faith in God, to have a strong faith in good, and to have a good moral compass that has given me some hard lessons and tested it over the times, for sure, brought forward in this podcast. But my moral compass is still where it is. It's never failed me. I may not have listened to what I needed to listen to or followed what I needed to, as we all do, and that's okay. It's okay to move on. It's okay to say you're sorry. It's okay to ask for forgiveness. And it's just okay. We're human. Transparency. I've been transparent, I think, for a long, long time. I've been among people that I've never met before, and the first time in conversation, you know, they're just surprised at how open and honest, and this is something I think about when I'm in those first time conversations. I walk away saying, why did I share as much as I shared when this person doesn't even know me? But that's just me. I really like to get to the core. I want people to know what I believe in. I want people to know where I stand, and better yet, that I'm not perfect. And that's probably more than most people want to hear. But it's not a line of bullshit. I am not a bullshitter. I hate bullshit. I speak the truth, I foster the truth, and I try to develop a real connection and a bond. And the amount of bonds and reconnections that I built doing this podcast with friends that we have let go only to bring back, and easily see that it's like we never left the dinner table, has been amazing. The other thing that I promise you that has not been rediscovered, but is a part of our discovery, is just being authentic. I think you can see that. I feel you can hear that. You hear it in the tone of our voice. You hear it in the laughter that we share. We are a good duo with regards to keeping it real, and being authentic always pays dividends. I see that every time I do banter with someone I know nothing about, of approaching a gentleman at Kid Rock's new steakhouse at my birthday, and just seeing that he looked important, and I struck up a conversation only to find out that he was, and him tell me his life story as much as I got to tell him my life story. And that is really, really cool, and is something that I just cherish, to know that my daughter and I both have that talent to just lay it on the line and be okay with it. And sometimes, as I said earlier, to a fault. But we live and we learn. Another big takeaway: listening before acting. I have really, really always heard about active listening. I've tried to be a good listener and being a leader in my company. And I have to say, I've not always been a good listener. People who have a point, want to drive a point, they're always the first one out of the chute, and always the first one to open up their mouth. I've been that guy. It's not cool. It's hard to let go of. It's kind of like a moment. It just keeps coming back. But in this podcast, Jamie has taken charge. She's run the dynamic of a lot of shows. I've just enjoyed sitting back and listening and learning. And that's my biggest representation of sitting in this chair, is to learn what I don't know about my daughter, which I have to say I probably knew 90% of what's been shared. The 10% actually equals 90% in shock value. So those were some surprises, and I didn't know what to say, or better yet, what to do other than to remain silent. And it was just reflection of me pretending to be her age and the trouble I got in at her age, which I know everybody in my family thinks I'm perfect, only to know at 70 years old, I'm far from perfect, but they've accused me of being so. And again, as I said earlier, it's what I strive to be, but I am human. But anyway, listening before acting, calling someone out, trying to get the first words out of your mouth and make a point of something is just not the best course. Listening, reflecting, and responding thoughtfully instead, once again, emotionally, will get you much further. And I feel like I have made good progress in that. And same way every day with other things, to try to sit back and listen and try to be reflective and not just judgmental. And I think we all can jump to judgment very quickly. And that's, as I've said earlier, that's not what's important. What's important is to be there to listen and be reassuring, and better yet, just a supportive to what you're hearing and the story being told. Rediscovery has been reconnection. As I mentioned earlier, the people that have been on this podcast in guest modes, stories that have been brought forward, it's a new relationship with many that we have left in the past. Sad to say. And you think about that. We all do that. Your grade school friends, your high school friends. I so admire people that still have best friends from a relationship in high school. We got to witness that in April when we went back to the Walsingham reunion, and just how much we've been separated from those people. But it was like we had just walked into them after having dinner with them the night before. It was the most awesome experience, that just creating a reconnection, renewed a relationship that has made life better, and better yet, fulfilled the hard work of what the podcast has incorporated, what my reflections on my story has incorporated, and just to show how much one appreciates life. And that's the other thing I want to say. You really need to, with reflection, as how, no matter how hard it is, how difficult it is, but reflecting who you are, where you are, and what you have, not what you don't have, is definitely a morale booster and a big thank you. And that's thank you for everyone's hard work, efforts, better yet, relationships that you have continued to bring forward and maintain. It's very, very important. Another title to what I want to bring forward is really what Jamie has helped me uncover. And I've uncovered a lot, as I've just shared above. But the journey wouldn't have meant as much without acknowledging that Jamie, sitting on the other side, drew me out, brought me in, gave me the patience to uncover some of the things that she didn't know, some of the things she wanted to know about divorce, about early relationships, about whys, about all of that, has really, really been a healer for the both of us. The complicated relationship between a father and a daughter definitely brought forward, and it's one that's been deeply valued and respected for sure my entire life, and more so today. It's those times as well, and those hard times, that we burnt to the ground at times. That relationship was not solid. It was not on good footing because, again, of emotional outbursts or emotional opinions, or trying to make a point and not understanding, not listening, not being patient. A father has a hard job, and yet today I just feel like that is kind of in the past and on the wayside. I've really worked hard at that. I've mentioned before on the podcast how many hours of counseling I've gone through. I think we all all do this, but self-reflection has been the best counseling ever over the course of the last 12 months. And the most important part is that we've healed, we've nurtured, and we've moved forward. And what's important with all of that, as I said earlier, it is the importance of balancing who I am and was and trying to be who I need to improve in order to be myself for my family and for my friends and as a good person. We've uncovered that seeking the truth and trying to find an understanding in that truth has brought forward untold stories and has allowed us to make peace with one another and, better yet, throw away the hurt and the pain. Life goes on. Water is under the bridge. Apologies are given and things heal. There's been a lot of hearing a story and processing what's been good and what's been bad, and there's always two sides to the story. And that's one thing that has come out from Jamie's mouth many, many times. Dad, I did not know that. I did not understand that. Better yet, it's her acknowledging that both sides of the story is deserving to be heard and to be understood that helps put together some rationalization into maybe just a bad decision or a poor decision. That has been much uncovered and appreciated, and she has respectfully taken the time to do so. Another thing that I've uncovered, I hear this from Suzanne many, many times. I hear this from my family many, many times. My need to relax. The podcast has allowed me to relax. It does take work, but the ability to just share, revisit, and actually develop and grow something, to grow love, to grow affection, to grow rejuvenation, to learn that there is grace, just to curb and be relaxed, curb enthusiasm, curb energy, be present in the moment, take it in and listen is something that I feel I have discovered and something that, again, I continue to work on. Lastly, and we had a good discussion on this with, again, Dr. Allison on her podcast, my whole takeaway about forgiveness. We make mistakes very often. We hurt people very often. But if you can't do more than say, I'm sorry, in my opinion, that isn't really very genuine. As a child, when you're in trouble, the first thing you tell your parent is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mom. Well, are you really sorry? And I've learned this as an adult. This goes back to my kids growing up and being, out of high school and back on their own and knowing the pain that Jamie and Shane felt through the divorce. And better yet, some of the hard times that Kelsey's mom and I were going through at that time. It was up to me as the father to do nothing more than to go to each one of them and ask for forgiveness, to know and state what I was, what I did. Can you forgive me? And then hopefully have grace come forward in a yes from all three of them, which has been accomplished and continues to be accomplished. But better yet, by that grace and that forgiveness, you know that you truly are forgiven. And it's just a clean wipe of the slate and, better yet, a fresh start over. So asking forgiveness is a lot harder than saying I'm sorry. And better yet, asking forgiveness for not treating one well or not being kind and courteous to one, specifically knowing what you did wrong, is again a huge step towards growth and something that has come out of my life and a part of me in working through issues with my children and with spouses or with Suzanne. I mean, it's something that is a daily part of life, is realize that when you hurt, you've got to buck up, ask for forgiveness, and then you're allowed to move on once granted. Very important, I feel. So Jamie, again, a lot to be thankful for here, honey. I mean, I love you to death and just really proud of what we've accomplished. It's been a good ride. And I wanted to just document for the record here that reflection really wouldn't be complete without recounting your story and how your and my paths have intertwined. And what I did was put pivotal dates. And I've got your age, which you will hear first, and my age, which you will hear second. What the takeaway there is I want you to think at age 44 and me age 70, where you are at 44 today when you hear where I was at 44 in your day. So May 14th of 1981, you popped out of the womb and you ran into the state of Texas, born in Garland, Texas. That is a memorable day. At age 3, in 84, you experienced, a divorce. We were living in Mesquite, Texas. Again, we've worked through that. We've gotten through that. At age 5 in 86, you moved away. And that, there's a difference here of 26 years. So at age 5, I was 31. At age 18, I believe I was 44. That's when you graduated high school. Reese isn't even in high school. So that I thought was a huge separation. And high school graduation marked 13 years after, age 5 of being separated, as we've talked about. And yet through it all, our relationship continued to grow and revolve. And it went through some hard times senior year or junior year and through college, I'm sure. But I remember making trips to Tallahassee and experiencing your school life. And at age 22 in 2003, you graduated and I was 48. Think about 48, you being 44, how young you really feel at 48 or 44. But graduating from Florida State and after 4 years of hard work and play and a lot of play and distance learning, with us not being together, we celebrated with a long overdue from vacation and into a life together when you returned to Dallas that same year. We reunited, lived together. We walked on some hot coals, learning how to navigate our new dynamic, the relationship, being away from one another, a youth going through high school and college, and dad having a somewhat sensical head thinking it should have been better. I don't know, but lots of emotion again and lots of hardship in that time frame that we did work through. Next milestone is at age 31, you departed Dallas for Philadelphia. Actually, in 2013, January, Reese had just been born. So my age at 57 years old, I was just becoming a granddad, and then that grandchild went to Philly. That was hard. But you've moved on. You are a wonderful mother at age 40. Me, 66 in 2021. You still managed, turning that pivotal 40-year-old milestone in Philadelphia, a home of 9 years, settled in, and Parker, number 2, born in 2016, completed what we know as the Edwards family. 2 wonderful kids. Lots of headaches, lots of heartache to come, but they are thriving and doing well based upon you and your husband, Chris, bringing family together. So today, again, at age 44, dad turning 70, back in Flag Day of June 14th, here we are. 1 year of a podcast, a lot learned, a lot evolved, good times, hard times, tears, laughter, memories. This year and the anniversary of the birthday of 2 Clicks is something that tells me that anniversaries just are not about marking time. Here, the hope today was to honor the growth, the lessons, and the love that carried us forward to complete this task. When we first started this podcast, we were told by Kelsey that a podcast is lucky to make it through 3 episodes. We are now on episode 33 and on to season 2. The next 33. that's pretty remarkable and pretty incredible to know that we've stayed with it. We've funded ourselves. It's an expense that is hard on everyone, I know, but we believe in it. We love it. It's allowed us to grow, develop, and brought us more laughter and more happiness amongst our families and 100 ball caps. So you can't beat that. But Jamie, I just want to say thank you. I love you. I appreciate you being a part of my story and for allowing me to be a part of yours. That was not your choice. You came along because I brought you along. But I am so endeared to having this time with you, and it's developed into something that is just beyond approach as far as good. And here's to another year of learning, listening, and keeping it real. I do want to close with a small poem. You shared my birthday greeting. Thank you. But in the mirror of memory, we find who we are. Through the cracks and the scars, we still see the star. We stumble, we fall, yet we rise and we grow. And the love that we plant is the love that we sow. Here's to a year. Here's to the next chapter. And I'm ready to go to writing it. I love you.
Thank you for tuning in today. With so many podcasts out there, we are grateful you chose to spend your time with us.
And we'd love to hear from you. So send us your questions, comments, and feedback to info@twoclicksinapod.com, and we might feature your message in a future episode.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social and head over to our YouTube channel where you can watch the full episode live and in living color. You can find us at 2 Clicks in a Pod. That's 2, as in the number, clicks in a pod.
Well, James, until next time, love you.
Love you too, Daddy.